I don't talk much, sir, but I can cook. The human shrugged and said, "Works for me." The tram glided away behind Merrick as its doors sealed, leaving a brief rush of warm air against his back. The corridor of Section D, 17 stretched ahead, bright and polished like most of Orvis Spindle. Clean metal panels, steady ceiling lights, and the faint, sterile smell of recycled citrus that never fully faded. His boots made a soft impact against the floor, mixing with the distant vibration of the station's rotation. He carried the usual weight of his shift in his shoulders. Hours of adjusting docking windows and intervening in tight traffic conflicts left his mind sharp but drained. Every decision he made during his cycle determined whether dozens of crews slept safely or spent their nights filing hazard reports. He did the math faster than most, but it cost him something each day. He just wanted to reach his door, step inside, and let the silence swallow the rest. Halfway down the corridor, people slowed. A small group curved around an obstacle, not stopping long enough to intervene, but staying just long enough to watch. That told him the problem wasn't mechanical. A catering supervisor stood with one hand braced against the wall, blocking the narrow approach to a door. His pale jacket caught the bright corridor lights. His posture said he felt comfortable taking up space that wasn't his. In front of him stood a woman. She kept her gaze fixed on the floor. Her fingers were interlocked tightly in front of her, the knuckles pressed darker against smooth violet skin. A soft white glow shimmered in faint lines along her collarbones and cheeks. Her dress was thin plum fabric, cut low across the chest and tied at the waist with a worn knot. A slit on the side revealed the length of her leg, bare and cold against the spotless floor. The dress was clearly made to attract eyes in lower-ring markets, not worn for warmth or comfort. Her hair, long, white, slightly tangled at the ends, hung forward, shielding part of her face. A small cloth bundle rested at her feet. She was trying to look smaller than she was. "You can't stay here," the supervisor said. "People live in this section. You want to lounge, you go 2 levels down." She stood straight but tense. Her jaw locked briefly. "I am waiting," she said, voice quiet but steady. "For what?" the man asked. "A door to open itself for you." A couple of passing workers laughed under their breath. Merrick felt irritation push through the fatigue. He walked forward without adjusting his stride. The woman didn't look up, but he saw the slight tremor in her hands. The supervisor rolled his eyes and added, "This isn't the kind of hallway for a woman dressed like that. You want offers, you stand where men are buying." That landed like a slap. Her shoulders lifted a fraction as if absorbing an impact she expected. Merrick stopped beside them. "She's in front of my door," he said flatly. The supervisor blinked and turned. Recognition flickered when he saw the active analyst band on Merrick's wrist. "Oh, didn't know she was here for you," the man said. "Thought she was from the lower decks. They wait outside doors sometimes." "Not mine," Merrick said. "You're blocking it." The supervisor opened his mouth, but the look on Merrick's face halted any argument. He stepped aside, muttering something as he walked off. The small cluster of onlookers faded with him. Silence hung in the space he left. Merrick turned fully toward the woman. She still hadn't moved. Her stance was stiff, like she wasn't sure what came next or whether it was safe. He looked at her properly now. She was tall and slender, but not fragile, more like someone who learned to brace herself young. The faint glow beneath her skin shifted when she breathed. The edges of her dress were worn. She'd been sleeping in cold places. He could see it in the slight dryness at her elbows, the way she curled her toes on the metal floor to pull warmth from it. "Why my door?" he asked. She swallowed, then lifted her eyes for the first time. They were pale silver with small star-shaped flecks. Those eyes studied him quickly, his posture, his jacket, the faint smell of the spices he had cooked with last night that clung to the seams. "I don't talk much, sir," she said. Her voice carried strain, but she held it steady. "But I can cook." There was no tremble in that sentence. Just a single piece of truth she'd chosen to offer. He waited for more, but she didn't continue. Nothing about her stance suggested a scam. She didn't try to step closer. She didn't touch him or soften her voice. She simply stood there, exposed, grounded by fear and exhaustion. He spoke carefully. "Why here?" he asked. "There are hundreds of doors on this ring." Her fingers tightened once. "Your door smelled like real food," she said. "Spices, meat. Someone who cares what they eat is less likely to hurt someone standing in their doorway." That was a sharper assessment than he expected. "You were looking for someone specific," he said. "I was looking for a kitchen," she said. "A real one, not a dispenser slot. I can work for food and a warm room. I don't need much space." Something in her tone made his chest tighten. She said it like someone who had argued for her own survival too many times. He leaned his shoulder against the wall, watching her without judgment. "I don't need a servant," he said. She nodded once, not surprised. "I know," she said, "but you don't burn spices. That means you'll let me do it right." He almost laughed at that, but her face wasn't joking. She'd chosen him because he had used Zyron berries correctly, or at least close enough. He carried a quiet life. Few visitors. No partner. A job that never let him bring chaos home. Every decision he made was clean and calculated. Yet this one didn't feel like a calculation. It felt like a door already half open. "You hungry?" he asked. "Yes." "Cold?" Her eyes flicked down to her bare feet. "Yes. And if I let you in, your plan is to cook?" She nodded once. "And leave when you want," she added quickly, as if correcting an assumption before he could make it. "I don't stay longer than I'm wanted." He let out a long breath through his nose. He felt something unexpected. Empathy. He didn't like how the supervisor looked at her. He didn't like how the crowd walked past her, as if she were part of the architecture. He didn't like seeing someone brace for cruelty as if it were routine. He made a decision before he fully acknowledged it. He stepped toward the door panel and unlocked it. "Come inside," he said. "We can talk better there." She froze for a heartbeat, searching his face for hidden intent. When she found none, she picked up her bundle and walked in. His compartment was modest. Bed folded against the wall, a narrow table, a compact stove with ceramic burners, and a row of spice jars above it. The soft blue light from the viewport cast the room in faded turquoise, reflecting the gas giant spinning below. She entered slowly, scanning corners, checking exits out of habit. Her steps were light but cautious. The warmth inside made her shoulders release a fraction. He followed and let the door slide shut behind them. "You can put your things there," he said, pointing to an empty corner. She obeyed without question, then stood still, waiting for the next move. He glanced at the stove. "You said you can cook," he said. "Show me." Her breath steadied. Cooking was the one place she felt sure of herself. He saw it instantly. She moved to the kitchen, opening cupboards with measured curiosity. She found the tin of Orvan saltfish, the jar of larnroot pieces, the berry preserve he had barely touched. Each ingredient seemed to draw her deeper out of fear and into competence. She lit the burner. The flame glowed. The pan warmed. She poured a thin line of oil, leaned in to watch the shimmer, then added the larnroot. The sizzle filled the room. The air changed. The faint smell of warm oil and spices replaced the sterile station scent. Her shoulders eased. Her hands grew steadier. Merrick watched from the table. His eyes followed the deliberate way she moved, checking heat by holding her palm over the flame, adjusting seasoning with measured pinches. She tasted the glaze, frowned, adjusted it, tasted again. "You trained?" he asked. "No," she said. "Just learn early. Kitchens don't lie if you do the work." He nodded. That made sense. "And before the station?" he asked. She hesitated, then answered while slicing saltfish into neat strips. "I cooked on private haulers. Long contracts. Some were good, some were not." That was all she offered, but it was enough to tell him she'd had to leave in a hurry. He didn't push. When the food finished, she plated it quietly. Crisp edges, berries reduced into a thick glaze, saltfish cut into clean lines. She placed a plate in front of him, then sat opposite him without being told. He took a bite. The flavors hit cleanly: sweet glaze, crisp root, rich meat. He hadn't eaten food like this in years. He nodded once. "It's good." Her shoulders lowered in a controlled release of tension. "You're not lying?" "No." "Then I can cook here," she said, voice steadier. He sat back, studying her. Something about her calm under pressure, her directness, felt familiar. Not in her story, just in her clarity. He understood people who survive by precision. "I'm Merrick," he said. "Nirali," she answered. He looked at her bare feet, then the knot of her dress. "You can stay tonight," he said. "We can figure out the rest tomorrow." She stared down at her hands and nodded once. "I won't cause trouble," she said. "I know how to keep out of the way." "I don't need you out of the way," he said. "I need the stove used properly. That's all." She breathed in slowly, like the air hurt her lungs and healed them at the same time. "Then I'll cook," she said. He cleaned his plate quietly, feeling an unexpected sense of company settle into the room. He didn't plan to bring anyone into his life. He didn't want to fix anyone, didn't want to rescue anyone, didn't want complications tied to his wristband. But letting her walk back into a corridor that treated her like a problem didn't sit right with him. He planned to give her space, a kitchen, and whatever steady ground she needed to stand on her own again. Whether she understood that yet didn't matter. He stood, gestured to the bed. "Take it," he said. "I'll use the chair." Her eyes widened slightly. "Why?" "Because you look like you haven't slept indoors in a while." She didn't argue. She moved to the bed, hesitated once, then lay down carefully, trying not to disturb anything. He dimmed the lights. The hum of the ventilation filled the room. She turned her face toward the faint glow of the gas giant outside. Merrick settled into the chair. His back would hurt in the morning, but he didn't care. For the first time in months, the compartment felt like something lived in. And for the first time in longer, he didn't mind sharing it. Dim morning light from the viewport colored the room in pale turquoise when Merrick opened his eyes. His neck ached from sleeping in the chair, but the quiet made it bearable. The ventilation hum blended with a soft rhythm he didn't immediately recognize. He turned his head. Nirali slept curled on her side. Hair spilled across the pillow in a white arc. At some point during the night, she had pulled the blanket only halfway up, leaving one leg uncovered. The cool station air brushed over violet skin patterned with faint glow lines that brightened and dimmed with her breathing. Her dress had loosened at the shoulder, sliding down her arm. She didn't stir. Merrick stood carefully, trying not to wake her. The movement sent a small crack through his spine, and he rolled his shoulders until the discomfort settled. He stepped into the kitchen area and filled a kettle with purified water. The small hiss of the faucet broke the silence. As he set the kettle on the burner, he noticed the way Nirali's hand twitched, an instinctive reaction to noise, like someone who had learned to stay alert even while sleeping. She didn't open her eyes, but her fingers curled and relaxed again. He looked around the room. Her small cloth bundle sat where she had left it. Something inside created a faint outline. Two thin objects, probably cooking tools. That answered a question he hadn't asked last night. She had traveled with the only thing she trusted to be useful. The kettle clicked softly. He poured hot water into a cup with fallen seed grains. The smell was sharp and earthy. Steam drifted toward the ceiling. A voice came from the bed, rough with sleep. "That smells like real coffee." She pushed herself up slowly, blinking until her eyes adjusted. Her hair slid over her shoulder in a thick wave as she sat. Her dress had twisted slightly during the night. She pulled the strap back into place without embarrassment, but with practiced speed, almost as if she disliked leaving herself exposed without choosing it. "You slept," Merrick said. "For a few hours," she answered. "Longer than I expected." He handed her the cup. She accepted it with both hands, warming her palms against the ceramic. "You always sleep in chairs?" she asked. "Only when someone else needs the bed." She took a careful sip. Her silver eyes softened a fraction. "I thought you might change your mind," she said. "Some men do in the morning." Merrick leaned against the counter, arms at his sides. "I didn't take you in on accident," he said. "I don't revoke decisions after sleep." She studied him for a long moment, as if measuring how much of that she believed. Then she lowered the cup and exhaled slowly. "Thank you," she said. The words were quiet but steady. He nodded once. "No need to make it heavier." Her stomach growled softly. She tensed, then looked away. "I can make something," she said quickly, "if you have ingredients." "We'll check," he said. She stood and moved toward the stove. The hem of her dress brushed her legs with each step. Her bare feet made almost no sound. She tied her hair into a loose knot to keep it out of the way, revealing the full length of her neck and a gentle pulse of bioluminescent lines under her skin. Merrick opened the cold box. Inside sat a block of preserved Orvan meat from last cycle, a handful of Zyron berries, 2 Larn roots, and a sealed packet of eggs grown in a station biovat. Simple, but enough. She looked in, assessing. I can make a morning pan, she said. Meat, eggs, root slices. It will be fast. Do it, he said. As she worked, her movements were more relaxed than last night. She cracked the eggs into a bowl and stirred them with a thin fork from her bundle. Her fingers moved with familiarity, not hesitation. She sliced the Larn root into thin pieces, each cut precise. When the pan heated, the smell of sizzling meat filled the room. Merrick watched, leaning on the table. Something still bothered him, a detail from last night. How long were you on the station before you came to my door? He asked. She didn't pause. She flipped the meat once, let the edges brown, then answered. 3 days. You had a berth? A cot and a shared deck, she said. Too loud. Too crowded. Kitchens were full. No work left. Why leave your last ship? She hesitated, then slid the root slices into the pan. The captain changed, she said. New one didn't want to cook. He wanted someone who stayed quiet and did what he liked. Merrick's jaw tightened. You left before it turned worse? He asked. I tried. She turned off the burner. Security didn't stop me. They didn't care. They said if I walked out, it wasn't their problem. She plated the food, dividing it evenly. The smell was rich. Warm meat, lightly crisp root, eggs soft but set. Merrick took his plate. You're safe here, he said. She didn't smile, but something eased around her eyes. She ate slowly, savoring each bite as if unsure when she'd next be allowed to. After a few minutes, she looked at the viewport. What do you do on the station? She asked. Traffic flow, he said. I schedule ships. Keep them from running into each other. She nodded, thinking it through. That's why you smell like exhaust and spice, she said. You work near docks, and you cook more than most men. A short, amused breath left him. You're observant. I had to be, she said. People show what they want before they say it. Kitchens teach that. He finished his plate and set it aside. I meant what I said yesterday, he told her. You stay as long as you want. No rules except the ones I said. She traced her finger along the rim of her cup. And what do you want from me while I stay? She asked. Nothing you don't want to give, he said. Cook if you want. Rest if you need. That's it. Her gaze settled on him fully now. No flinching. No searching for danger. Just watching him with an alert, quiet curiosity. That's unusual, she said. For you, he said. Not for me. A faint knock interrupted them. 2 light taps on the door. Narali stiffened instantly. Her hands moved behind her, hiding the plate like she expected someone to take it. Merrick stepped forward, calming his posture so she wouldn't think he intended to hide her. He opened the door. A neighbor stood there, a middle-aged woman holding a small package. Your docking slate was misdelivered again, she said. Figured you needed it for morning updates. Merrick took it. Thanks. The woman glanced past him, noticing Narali's dress, her hair, her bare feet. Her expression shifted into something judgmental and automatic. She's new, the neighbor said. Guest, Merrick replied. The woman gave a short nod, not hiding her assumptions, and left. Merrick closed the door and turned back to Narali. She stood rigid, breathing harder than before. No one here decides what you are, he said. She unclenched her hand slowly. I'll try to believe that, she said. He planned to prove it through consistent action, not promises. She looked around the room again, calmer now. What do you do during your shift? She asked. When you leave. Watch screens. Move ships. Talk captains out of crashing. It's repetitive. Repetitive is safe, she said. He tilted his head. You want to see the spindle later? Not crowded areas, just the parts that won't pressure you. She considered it. Yes, she said, but only if I walk beside you. You will, he said. She took a breath that steadied her whole frame. I'll clean the dishes, she said. Then we can go. He didn't argue. He let her take the task because she needed ground under her feet. As she washed the plates, warm water running over her hands, the faint glow along her arms brightened. Her movements were calm, deliberate. When she finished, she dried her hands on a cloth and stepped back from the counter. I'm ready, she said. Merrick grabbed his jacket from a hook. She adjusted her dress and tied the waist tighter. Her bare feet pressed against the metal floor for a moment before she looked up. "Do people here care if someone walks without shoes?" she asked. "They care about nothing unless it blocks their path," he said. She nodded. That was enough. He opened the door. They stepped into the corridor together. The corridor outside Merrick's unit felt cooler than the room they had left behind. Narali stepped out first, her bare feet touching the smooth floor with a quiet pressure. She scanned the hallway the way someone checks for exits before taking a second breath. Her posture stayed straight, but the tension along her shoulders hadn't faded. Merrick locked the door and walked beside her, matching her pace without crowding her. The early cycle traffic was light, mostly freight clerks heading to terminals, a few maintenance workers pushing narrow carts with seal parts. No one looked twice at them, though a couple of passing glances lingered on Narali's dress before sliding away. "You should have shoes," Merrick said as they reached the lift column. "I had some," she said. "Lost them on the ship." She didn't add how or why. Instead, she looked at the polished metal under her toes. "Floors here are warmer than docking decks." "I'll get you a pair today," he said. She considered his tone, then nodded once, as if accepting it wasn't an offer, but a plan already set in motion. The lift arrived. They stepped in, and the doors closed with a soft click. The lift hummed downward toward the mid-ring walkway. Narali watched the indicator lights move, arms held close to her body as if conserving warmth. Her fingers brushed the knot of her dress, tightening it slightly. Merrick noticed her breathing shift. "Crowd's okay?" he asked. "If they don't touch," she said. "They won't," he replied. "Stay close." When the lift opened, the walkway curved ahead in a long arc lined with wide windows, showing the gas giant turning below. Pale clouds swirled across its surface in slow patterns. The light that reflected into the walkway gave everything a bluish cast. Walls, floor, the edges of Narali's hair. She hesitated at the sight of the open view. "You don't have these where you're from?" Merrick asked. "Not like this," she said. "My planet. The sky was always orange. Thick air. Heavy. This feels like looking into water." Her eyes tracked the massive storm bands far below. "And like falling." "Not falling," he said. "We're locked in orbit. Stable." She gave a short breath, almost a laugh, but not quite. "Humans always trust machines." "Humans let me build them," he said. "So I trust my own math." They began walking. The walkway wasn't crowded, but enough people passed that Narali shifted closer to him, narrowing the space between them by instinct. A group of supply haulers rolled a crate past. Narali's hand brushed Merrick's forearm lightly, steadying herself as the haulers squeezed by. She pulled her hand back immediately. "Sorry." "You're fine," he said. As they continued, the faint scent of cooked meat drifted from one of the small vendor booths built into the wall. Thin skewers sizzling on a low grill, fat crackling on the surface. Narali paused, drawn by it. "They use drift beast cuts here," Merrick said. "Cheap but good." Narali leaned slightly toward the booth, watching the vendor flip the skewers. Her throat moved in a small swallow. "You didn't eat much this morning," Merrick said quietly. "I didn't want to take too much," she answered. "I wasn't sure how long I would stay." "You're staying," he said. "Eat what you want." The vendor caught Merrick's eye. "2 skewers." Merrick nodded. The vendor handed over the meat on wooden sticks. Narali took one slowly, holding it with both hands before biting off a small piece. The texture surprised her, soft with a charred edge. She chewed carefully, savoring it. "It's good," she said. Merrick ate his without ceremony. When she finished hers, she looked at the stick as if deciding whether to ask for another. Merrick caught the glance. "Want one more?" he asked. She hesitated. "If you're getting one too." He nodded and bought 2 more without comment. They walked again. After a few minutes, Narali's steps shifted. Her pace matched his more naturally. The air felt less tense around her. "Where did you live planet-side before ships?" Merrick asked. She kept her eyes on the floor ahead. "A farming district. We grew vesh root and kelney fruit. My family wanted me to stay there. Marry someone. Join their trade. You didn't want that." "I wanted movement," she said. "And work that was mine. Kitchens gave me that." Her tone softened only slightly. but it was enough to tell him that leaving home hadn't been a clean break. They stopped near a railing. Below them, a freight drone, small, not the type Nerali feared, glided along a track, carrying sealed crates. She watched it pass. "Yesterday you said you knew my name from the canteen," Merrick said. "You worked there long?" "Only 2 days," she said. "They let me wash vegetables, not cook. When they refused to put me on burners, I left. No point staying if they won't use the skill I have." Merrick understood that more than he admitted. Wasted skill bothered him. She turned to him slightly. "Why did you live alone before yesterday?" He didn't answer immediately. He watched the gas giant below them shift, its massive clouds moving as slowly as tides. "My job is quiet," he said. "My room is quieter. I didn't want noise at home after dealing with captains all cycle." "So you chose silence," she said. "For the most part. Until me." He looked at her directly. "Until you." She absorbed that without blinking. Something about it steadied her. They walked again until the walkway opened into a small communal seating deck. Tables, food dispensers, windows stretching from floor to ceiling. Only a few people sat there this early in the cycle. Nerali stopped at the threshold. "This area bothers you?" Merrick asked. "Not the space," she said. "The eyes." "Then we won't stay," he said, turning away immediately. She followed. As they headed back toward the lift, a man in a maintenance jacket passed them and gave Nerali an obvious, lingering look, from her bare feet to her dress to the faint glow at her collarbone. Nerali's body tightened. Merrick stepped half a pace closer to her, shifting his shoulder forward just enough to interrupt the man's line of sight. The man redirected his gaze and kept walking. Nerali exhaled, slow and long. "People here stare less than on ships," she said. "But it still happens. If anyone bothers you, tell me," Merrick said. "I don't care who it is." She looked up at him, eyes steady. "You say things like you mean them." "I don't waste words," he said. They reached the lift. As they waited, she brushed her hair back with both hands, smoothing it behind her shoulders. The simple gesture exposed the full line of her neck and the faint markings that glowed softly beneath the skin. The glow brightened when she breathed in. She caught him watching. "Is something wrong?" she asked. "No," he said. "Not wrong." The lift doors opened. They stepped inside. As they rose toward the residential ring, Nerali rested her hand lightly on the rail, more balanced than before, less guarded. "Merrick," she said quietly. "Yeah. When I came to your door, I expected you to close it. And if I had," he asked, "I would have waited until someone else opened theirs." She paused. "But I'm glad it was yours." He met her gaze. "So am I." The lift stopped at their level. The doors opened with a soft chime. Nerali stepped forward first, but this time she didn't look around in fear. She walked with intent, with awareness, with a small measure of trust forming under her steps. Merrick watched that change with a calm he didn't show. They walked toward his unit together. The corridor to Merrick's unit was quieter than earlier, the station's morning cycle settling into its usual rhythm. Nerali walked half a step ahead, no longer hugging the wall the way she had when they first left the room. Her shoulders stayed lifted, alert but not tense, and the air around her felt steadier. When they reached the door of his unit, she paused with her hand near the panel but didn't touch it. She looked back at him. "Do I wait for you to open it every time?" she asked. "For now," he said. "Once you know the panel code, you won't have to." She considered that, then nodded once, as if the idea of having access to a door still felt unfamiliar. The panel clicked and the door slid open. She stepped inside and slipped automatically toward the kitchen area, her feet silent against the floor. Her bundle remained in the corner where she placed it the night before, untouched. Merrick followed and hung his jacket on the hook. "You want to rest for a bit before we do anything else?" "I'd rather cook," she said. "It keeps my mind from drifting." "What do you want to make?" "It depends on what you have." She opened the cold box and cupboards again, scanning their contents with more intention than yesterday. After a moment, she turned to him. "You eat too little," she said, "for someone doing long shifts." He raised an eyebrow. "And what tells you that?" "You store ingredients like someone who buys them because they should eat, not because they enjoy eating." She picked up a jar of dry greens and set it down again. "Most men who live alone do that." He didn't argue. She wasn't wrong. You could decide the next meal, he said. Whatever you think I should be eating. Her eyes narrowed with quiet concentration. I'll need more than this. We should buy supplies. He leaned against the table. We can go later. She shook her head. No, I should go. Alone. He straightened slightly. Why alone? To prove something to myself, she said. And maybe to you. He studied her carefully. Her posture was firm, and her gaze didn't waver. The prospect of walking the station by herself clearly made her uneasy. He saw the way her fingers brushed the seam of her dress for reassurance, but she still suggested it. You can go alone, he said, as long as you stay on the mid-ring and avoid loading bays. They get aggressive during cycle peaks. She nodded, but, he added, before you go anywhere alone, you need shoes. Her eyes lowered to her bare feet. Not embarrassment, simply practicality. What kind? She asked. Anything that fits, he said. Station shops don't stock much variety. She took a breath, grounding herself. I'll go now, then. You can't leave with nothing to carry supplies in. He opened his storage drawer and pulled out a folded cloth satchel. Take this. She accepted it with both hands. The simple weight of it seemed to settle her nerves. Thank you, she said. He stepped aside to let her pass. Before she reached the door, he added, if anyone gives you trouble, come straight back. She looked over her shoulder. I know what trouble looks like. I won't wait for it. He held her gaze. Still, come back if something happens. She nodded once, more firmly this time, then left the room. The door closed. The silence felt different without her in it, too still, too clean. Merrick moved to the viewport and watched the turquoise clouds drift below the ring. His mind drifted to her earlier question, why he lived alone. He hadn't given her the full truth, mostly because it wasn't dramatic. He'd spent years on rotating crews, too used to temporary quarters and quiet rooms to think about changing that. People came and went on orbital stations. Nothing stayed long enough to build around. The idea of someone cooking in his space, moving through it like it was theirs as well, felt strange but not unwelcome. He turned away from the window and sat at the table. He pulled his slate from the packet the neighbor had returned earlier. Dock schedules for the next cycle flashed across the screen. Traffic lines, clearance windows, a warning flag on a slow freighter that needed rerouting. He set the slate down again almost immediately. Waiting for someone was unfamiliar to him. He didn't like admitting that he was doing exactly that. Nirali stepped back into the corridor, the satchel held securely at her side. The walkway toward the market level was busier now, but she moved with more confidence than she had earlier. She kept her chin lifted, eyes forward, posture straight. Every so often a voice or footstep behind her made her glance sideways, but she didn't falter. She reached the lift and rode down alone. When the doors opened to the marketplace ring, the air shifted, warmer, filled with the smells of spices, frying oil, and fresh hydroponic greens. The noise hit her next. Vendors calling out prices, the clatter of metal trays, a child somewhere laughing, the overlapping chatter of trades. She stood for a moment, letting the environment settle around her. Her fingers tightened around the satchel strap, then relaxed. She walked. Rows of stalls lined the curved walkway. She passed bundles of fresh Karen leaf, stacks of root vegetables, crates of sealed salt slabs. A vendor selling footwear caught her eye. Plain shoes in neutral colors hung from a metal rack. She stopped there. The vendor looked up, surprised at her sudden presence. His gaze moved quickly from her face to the slit in her dress, then back up. You need sizes? He asked. She nodded. He pulled out a measuring strip. Feet on the marker. She stepped onto the mat without hesitation. The surface was cool under her skin. You're lighter than most with this height, he said. It's normal for my kind, she answered. He handed her a pair of dark, flexible shoes. Try these. Soft soles. Good for long walks. She slipped them on. They fit well, shaping around her feet with a firm but comfortable grip. How much? She asked. He gave the price. Merrick had given her station credits earlier, small denominations, enough for necessities. She paid, placed her old foot cloth into the satchel, and continued through the market. A woman selling meat strips called out to her. You need protein? Good price today. Nirali approached the stall. The meat was neatly cut, red with darker marbling, sealed in transparent packets. She inspected them with experienced eyes. Drift beast leg? She asked. Shoulder, the vendor said. Better texture. She bought 2 packets along with caron leaves, larn roots, and a small jar of thick seasoning paste. Everything fit neatly into the satchel. As she turned to leave, 2 men standing near a beverage kiosk stopped talking and looked at her. Their eyes lingered, assessing, curious in a way she had encountered before on ships. She felt the familiar pull in her chest, an urge to shrink back into the crowd. Instead, she stood taller. One of the men stepped slightly into her path. You looking for work? He asked. No, she said, sidestepping him. We know places that would take someone like you, the other added. She didn't answer. She continued walking, shoes soft against the floor. Hey, don't walk off, the first said. She didn't turn around. She didn't increase her pace either. She just kept going until their voices faded into the marketplace noise. When she returned to Section D, she moved faster. The corridor lights felt warmer now. Her shoes padded softly on the floor. Her steps steadied with every meter. She reached Merrick's door and opened her hand to press the panel, but stopped. She waited for him to open it. She wasn't sure yet if she was allowed to. Before she could decide, the door slid open from inside. Merrick stood there, slate in hand. You're back early, he said. I got what we need, she answered, lifting the satchel slightly. His eyes moved to her shoes. Good choice. And no trouble, she added. He stepped aside so she could enter. She walked in with more certainty than she had yesterday. What did you get? He asked. She placed the satchel on the counter and began pulling out ingredients one by one. Enough to cook dinner, she said, and enough to see if you actually eat like a person who works long shifts. He watched her arrange everything neatly. Then she turned to him. Merrick, I want to earn my place here. You already did, he said. You came back. Her fingers stilled for a moment. Then she nodded quietly and began preparing the meal. Nirali set the ingredients on the counter with quiet precision. The satchel empty, she folded it once and placed it aside. The room felt warmer now, with the soft scent of seasoning paste and the faint sweetness of caron leaves drifting from the open jars. Merrick stood near the table, watching her movements, not hovering, not directing, simply present. She unwrapped the drift beast's shoulder, the red meat catching the overhead light with a clean sheen. Her new shoes pressed firmly against the floor as she shifted her weight, grounding herself in a way she couldn't the night before. I'll start with the meat, she said. It needs time. Go ahead, Merrick replied, pulling out a chair but not sitting yet. She mixed seasoning paste with a small amount of warm water, stirring until it loosened into a thick, earthy marinade. As she coated the meat, the spice clung to her fingers in deep rust-colored swirls. The glow beneath her skin flickered gently with each motion. Merrick, finally Saturday. Anyone give you a hard time in the market? She placed the seasoned meat into a covered pan before answering. 2 men thought I was looking for the kind of work they wanted. She didn't turn to look at him. She rinsed her hands instead. I ignored them. They stopped. Merrick's jaw tightened. He kept his voice level. If they ever follow you here, you tell me. Immediately. They won't, she said simply. They only talk when they think someone is alone. You're not alone. She paused at the sink, water running over her hands in a steady stream. The line of her shoulders softened. I know, she said quietly. She cut caron leaves with a small knife from her bundle. Her own tools, well used but cared for. The knife moved quickly, scraping lightly against the board. She worked with steady confidence now, more certain of her place in his kitchen. What did you do before ships? She asked without looking up. Survey teams, Merrick said. Short contracts. Different stations, different planets. After a while, I wanted something stable, so I took the job here. He tapped aside the slate still on the table. Now I keep ships from colliding instead of wandering around in dust storms. She nodded, placing the sliced leaves into a bowl. You're good at stability. Too good sometimes. I don't think so. He watched her for a moment. The way she leaned closer to the stove, the careful tilt of her head as she listened to the pan heating, the signs of someone returning to a familiar rhythm. Her dress shifted when she bent to retrieve a second pan. the high slit revealing her leg in a clean line. She didn't hide it this time. She set the meat to cook over low flame. The room filled with quiet snapping sounds as the edges began to sear. She moved around him to reach the upper spice shelf, her arm brushing lightly against his shoulder. She didn't pull away immediately. "You sure you want to make this much food?" he asked. "You eat like someone who forgets to eat," she said. "I'm correcting that." He let out a short breath, half a laugh, half a sigh. "Fair enough." When the dish set simmering, she wiped her hands on a cloth and finally turned to face him fully. "What do I call you when other people are around?" she asked. "Merrick, yes. But what am I to you then?" He met her eyes. "You're the woman who lives in my home." She inhaled slowly, as if absorbing the weight of that answer. "Then what are you to me?" she asked. "You decide that part." She stepped closer, not abruptly, just enough that the warmth from the stove mixed with his body heat. Her white hair brushed her shoulder, the faint glow along her neck brightening. "You said I could stay as long as I want," she said. "I want to know what that means to you." He held her gaze steadily. "It means I open the door for you every time you return. It means you're safe here. It means I don't ask for anything you don't want to give." She looked down at his hand resting on the table. Her fingers hovered for a moment above it, uncertain, then settled lightly over his knuckles. He didn't move. "And what if I want to give something?" she asked quietly. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he turned his hand, letting their fingers meet properly. The contact was warm, steady. She didn't pull back. "We go at your pace," he said. Her expression shifted, relief, tension, and something warmer blending together. She didn't speak, but she didn't need to. A faint burst of steam rose from the pan behind her. She turned, collected herself, and stirred the meat again, the glow under her skin returning to its normal softness. Merrick stood and moved beside her, not touching, just close enough that she felt his presence. "After dinner," he said, "I'll teach you the panel code." She glanced up, surprised. "Already? You plan to stay?" he said. "You should be able to walk into your home." She looked at him for a long moment, searching his face for any trace of hesitation. She found none. "Merrick," she said softly, "I won't forget this." He didn't tell her not to. He didn't pretend it was nothing. Instead, he reached past her to turn down the heat on the burner, and their arms brushed again, this time lingering a moment longer. They finished cooking together, moving in quiet coordination, neither stepping on the other's space. A new rhythm had formed, and both of them felt it settling in, unmistakable and steady. Steam drifted toward the ceiling in slow waves as Nerali lifted the pan from the burner. The smell of seasoned drift beast filled the room, warm, rich, heavy with spice. She set the dish on the table, her movement steady but carrying a tension that hadn't been there minutes earlier. The closeness between them, while cooking, lingered in the air, quiet and unmistakable. Merrick pulled out 2 chairs. She hesitated, then sat beside him instead of across from him, as if the earlier touch of their hands had changed the shape of the room. They began to eat. The food was tender, flavorful, perfectly balanced. She watched his reaction more than she watched her own plate. "This is good," he said. Her shoulders relaxed. "It's better when someone eats it without pretending." "I don't pretend," he replied. "I see that." For a few minutes, they ate in silence. But the atmosphere wasn't the silence of strangers. It was a calm that held the heat of something forming between them. When they finished, Nerali stood to gather the plates. Merrick rose at the same time and stepped beside her to help. Their hands touched again, fingertips brushing across warm skin. Neither moved away. Nerali's breath caught softly. Her hand remained over his for a moment longer than necessary. When she placed the plates into the sink, she didn't step back to create distance. She stayed close, the side of her arm against his. She turned her head slightly. "You don't mind being near me?" "No," he said. "I don't." Her eyes dropped briefly to the front of his shirt where the fabric stretched across his chest, then rose again. "On most ships," she said quietly, "men didn't ask before they tried to touch. I'm not most men." She gave a small nod, like she had already decided that was true, but wanted to hear him say it aloud. Her voice lowered further. "And if I wanted you to touch me?" His heart thudded once, heavy. The question wasn't shy. It wasn't careless. It carried the weight of someone deciding, consciously, to trust. He lifted a hand slowly, giving her time to refuse, and brushed his fingers along her cheek. Her glow brightened under the skin, subtle and warm. She leaned into his palm as if she had been waiting for permission to melt. Merrick, her voice broke slightly in her throat. I haven't been touched in a way that felt like a choice. It's your choice, he said. All of it. She reached for the front of his shirt, gripping the fabric lightly. Not pulling him closer, just holding on. Then come here, she whispered. He did. Their bodies met without force, without rush. His hands slid to her waist, fingers pressing into the soft fabric of her dress. She exhaled against his neck, her breath warm through his shirt collar. Her hands moved over his ribs, slow and deliberate, mapping the shape of him with the quiet certainty of someone who wanted to memorize the moment. He kissed her, not hard, not claiming, just steady and sure. Her lips softened immediately, opening to him with a restraint that felt more intimate than urgency. She pressed closer, her thigh brushing his, the slit of her dress parting as she moved. Her glow deepened along the line of her collarbone, tracing the curve of her shoulders. It illuminated the shadows of the room, soft and warm. She lifted her hand to his jaw, tracing the edge of his beard with careful fingertips. This feels different, she whispered between breaths. Like I'm not being taken. Like I'm choosing. You are, he murmured against her mouth. She kissed him again, firmer this time, with real hunger behind it. Her fingers slid into his hair, tugging him closer. He lifted her slightly, guiding her backward toward the bed without breaking the rhythm of their mouths. When the back of her legs touched the mattress, she stopped, breathing fast. Not afraid, checking herself, checking him. He cupped her face gently. We go where you want. No further. She nodded slowly and sat on the edge of the bed, her knees brushing his. She placed her hands over his, guiding them to her waist, inviting but not forcing. I want to feel like this, she said softly. With you. Only you. He lowered his forehead to hers. Then we will. She lay back on the bed, pulling him with her, bodies aligned in a slow, natural press. Their lips met again, deeper now, her breath mixing with his. Her dress shifted, sliding upward over her legs, exposing warm violet skin under his hands. She arched slightly into his touch, her fingers gripping the fabric at his shoulders. Her glow brightened under him, soft pulses of light that rose and faded with her breaths. He kissed down the line of her throat, the warmth of her skin rising under his mouth. She let out a small sound, her hand tightening in his hair. Merrick. Her voice trembled with need, not fear. Don't stop. He didn't. They moved together with growing urgency, but never losing the slow, deliberate grounding they had built. Every shift of weight, every press of skin, every quiet breath was mutual, shared, chosen, wanted. The room filled with the low sounds of bodies learning each other, the faint hum of the station, and the soft glow that spread across her skin like a living warmth. When they finally eased into stillness, she lay against him, her head on his chest, breath slowing. He traced small circles on her back with his thumb, steady and grounding. She whispered into the space between them, I didn't think I'd ever want someone again. He held her closer. I didn't think I'd let someone in again. She curled against him, one leg draped over his, her new shoes still on the floor where she'd kicked them aside. Her fingers drew light patterns on his skin, slow and thoughtful. Merrick? She murmured. Yes. You're the first place that's felt like a home. He tightened his arm around her gently, without a word. She stayed there, warm against him, her glow dimming to a soft pulse that matched the rhythm of her breathing. Neither moved, neither needed to. The door was closed, the world outside quiet. And for the first time, their bodies rested in the same space, without fear, without conditions, with a closeness that felt earned. The station lights dimmed naturally into evening mode, leaving the room brushed with soft blue from the viewport. Nerali lay against Merrick's chest, her breath steady, her glow softened to a quiet shimmer beneath her skin. Their bodies rested under the thin blanket, legs tangled loosely, her hand resting over his ribs as though she needed the reassurance of movement beneath her palm. He traced a small line along her shoulder, slow enough not to break the calm that had settled over them. She lifted her head slightly, her white hair sliding across his chest in smooth waves. "You're warm," she murmured, voice low from the closeness they had shared. "So are you," he said. She shifted, propping herself on one elbow. The blanket slipped along her hip, revealing the faint pulse of light under her skin. She didn't pull it back up. She seemed comfortable in the space they had created, comfortable with him seeing her without guardedness. For a moment, she simply watched him. Her fingers moved lightly across his collarbone, tracing the shape of it in a slow, thoughtful line. "I need to ask something," she said quietly. "Ask. Well, I came to your door. Did you already know you'd let me stay?" He met her gaze without hesitation. "I knew you weren't leaving the hallway alone." She exhaled, relief mixing with something fragile. "That mattered more than you think." "I figured." She lowered herself again, resting her cheek near his shoulder. His arm wrapped around her naturally, the movement familiar already. Her fingers played idly with the fabric of the blanket. After a long silence, she said, "You didn't touch me the way other men did. Not even close." Her tone was calm, but the words carried weight. "You looked at me, but you didn't look through me." He brushed his thumb across her cheek. "You're not something to look through." She closed her eyes briefly. "Most people don't know the difference." A small pause passed between them. "I'm not most people," Merrick said softly. She smiled against his skin. Her glow brightened slightly as she shifted closer, sliding her leg fully over his. The warmth of her body pressed into him again, but the tension of earlier had turned into something more grounded, something that felt like belonging rather than fear or hunger. Her voice softened. "Merrick, what happens now?" "What do you want to happen?" he asked. She lifted her head again. Her silver-flecked eyes held steady as she spoke. "I want to stay," she said. "Not just cooking, not just hiding from cold corridors. I want to stay with you." "Then you stay," he replied. "You say it like it's simple." "It is," he said. "For me." She laughed once under her breath and shook her head lightly, hair brushing his shoulder. "You're strange," she said. "Strange in a way I trust." She leaned in and kissed him, slow, certain, full of the quiet confidence she hadn't had before. His hand found her waist, guiding her closer but not directing her. When they broke apart, she rested her forehead against his. "Today," she said softly, "I walked the market without panic. I walked back here knowing there was a door waiting for me. That has never happened in my life." He brushed a strand of her hair behind her ear. "You walked it on your own strength. But I returned because of you," she said. "Because this place, this room, felt like something I could come back to." She shifted again, settling against him while her fingers traced the faint scar on his forearm. "Where did you get this?" she asked. "Docking malfunction," he said. "Clamp slipped during a manual override." She nodded slowly. "You didn't panic, did you?" "No, I didn't think so." She lifted his hand to her lips and kissed his knuckles softly. The gesture was intimate, deliberate, and entirely hers. "I want to make this a place we share," she said. His chest tightened at the truth in her tone. "We already are." She curled closer, pulling the blanket over both of them fully this time. "Then teach me more about the station tomorrow. The parts one didn't see." "I will. And show me the panel code," she added. His lips touched her temple. "I plan to." She exhaled, long and steady, as if some invisible weight finally loosened around her. Merrick rested his chin lightly against the top of her head. Her glow dimmed into a soft pulse, settling with her breath. She slipped her hand under his, fingers interlocking with his naturally, as though her body had chosen the gesture without consulting her mind first. He held her close, listening to the quiet hum of the station around them. "Nirali," he said softly. I'm not going anywhere." She pressed her face against his chest, her voice muffled but sure. "Good, because I'm not either." They stayed like that, warm under the blanket, the station lights dimming to near night, the world outside the glass moving slowly while the world inside the room settled into something steady and real. No fear, no bargaining, no one leaving. Just two people in the same breath, the same quiet space, the same choice. Together. Soft morning light drifted through the viewport, painting the room in muted turquoise. Nerali woke first. Her body lay half-draped over Merrick's, her leg resting across his hip, her hand under his shirt where the warmth of his skin still lingered from the night. She blinked slowly, letting herself adjust to the steady rise and fall of his breathing. Merrick's arm was wrapped around her lower back, firm and relaxed. He hadn't rolled away from her once. He hadn't shifted to reclaim space. He held her as if her weight belonged there. She stayed still, absorbing that feeling. When she finally lifted her head, Merrick's eyes opened. He looked at her with the same calm focus he gave ship schedules, but softened in a way she hadn't seen him show to anyone else. "Morning," he said quietly. "Morning." Her voice had a rasp, warm from sleep. She brushed her fingertips along his jaw, feeling the faint texture of stubble. He caught her wrist lightly and kissed the inside of it, slow and deliberate. Her glow brightened under her skin in response. She breathed in. "I didn't expect to sleep like that." "You slept against me," he said, "the whole night. And you didn't push me off," she added, slightly amused. "I wasn't trying to escape." She smiled, not wide, but real. She shifted, rolling halfway onto her back while keeping his hand in hers. The blanket slid a little, exposing her shoulder and the faint trail of bioluminescent marks that ran down her collarbone. Merrick traced one with the back of his finger. The glow pulsed lightly beneath his touch. She drew in a small breath. Careful. Those markings react strongly in the morning. Sensitive. Very. He let his fingers trail lightly over them again, watching the glow brighten. She turned toward him, placing her palm against his chest. "Merrick, yesterday changed things." "Yes," he said without hesitation. "I want to be here. Not temporarily. Not as someone who cooks for you. As someone who stays." Her eyes held his. "But I need to know you want that too." "I do." Her lips softened with relief. "Then I want more than sleeping beside you. I want to build something with you." He shifted, propping himself up on his elbow, so he could see her clearly. "We can. One step at a time." She nodded and pushed herself up, sitting on the edge of the bed while gathering the blanket around her waist. He sat up behind her, hands resting gently on her hips. She leaned back into him, letting her head settle briefly against his shoulder. "I should show you something," she said. She reached for her small cloth bundle on the floor and untied it. Inside were two items: a narrow cooking knife she always carried and a thin strip of cloth, dark red, slightly frayed at the edges. Merrick's voice lowered. "What's that?" "A hearth strip," she said. "A symbol. On my homeworld, you tie one around the wrist of someone you choose to share a life with. It doesn't bind. It doesn't require vows. It just says you choose each other today and tomorrow, and the day after, if the bond still feels true." She held it between her fingers, the cloth trembling slightly. "I never used mine," she said. "No one ever felt safe enough." She turned toward him fully. The blanket slipped off one shoulder, revealing warm violet skin touched by the morning light. The glow beneath her surface brightened in soft waves as her heartbeat picked up. "You're the first man I want to offer this to," she said. "But only if it's not too soon." Merrick reached out and took the cloth gently from her hand. He looked at it once, then at her. "It isn't too soon," he said. Her breath caught. A slow warmth spread across her face, visible even through her skin tone. Merrick wrapped the strip around her wrist with deliberate care, tying a clean knot that sat against the gentle throb of her pulse. Her glow brightened instantly under the cloth, like warmth responding to warmth. She exhaled softly. "You tied it stronger than I expected." "You're staying," he said. "I want the knot to know that." She lifted his left hand and tied the second half of the cloth strip around his wrist, a smaller loop she had prepared inside the bundle. Her fingers worked carefully, tying the knot with quiet determination. "There," she whispered. "Now we match." He looked at their wrists side by side. She did too. When she leaned forward to kiss him, it was slow and grounding. Not the hunger of last night, but the depth of something settled and chosen. They stayed like that for a long moment, lips barely apart, breathing together. Eventually, Nirali rested her forehead against his. Her voice dropped to a low murmur. Merrick, something else happened after yesterday. She guided his hand to her lower belly. Not urgently, not dramatically, just a gentle placement. My body shifted during the night. It always does when I cross from fear into trust. He froze, waiting for clarity. It doesn't mean pregnancy, she said. Not yet. My species, our bodies prepare when we settle emotionally. It's normal, but it means my cycle's changed. And that means, she swallowed lightly, if we keep choosing each other, a child is possible. In time, Merrick's hand stayed over hers, steady and warm. Then when that time comes, we'll choose that too. Her eyes softened. She leaned into him again, and he wrapped his arms around her, holding her with the same grounding certainty he carried into every decision. Outside the viewport, the gas giant shifted its cloud bands and silent spirals, the station gliding above it in its calm rotation. Inside the room, Nirali lifted his wrist to her lips and kissed the knot she had tied. We built something last night, she said quietly, but today we started a life. He pulled her closer, settling her against his chest, her glow warm and constant against his skin. And for the first time, in a room that had always belonged to a single person, two people sat together with a shared future in their hands, steady, chosen, and unmistakably theirs.